Hello friends, Matt here with Peppercoat Barbecue and welcome back to the Peppercoat deck. Today I have a special edition. This is a restaurant recreation. This began a couple of weeks ago. We were eating at one of our favorite restaurants, Carrabba's. You see me here all dressed up in my nicest Yoda t-shirt, and I was declaring that I was going to remake the Spiedino di Mare, which is my favorite entree at Carrabba's. Now, if you're familiar with the menu or with this dish, you know that it is a scallop or a shrimp or a combination of both. In this case, that has been lightly breaded and then it is grilled over an open flame and drizzled with a creamy lemon butter sauce. Today, we're going to be recreating all that along with the fettucine Alfredo. I'm going to share with you the steps along the way so you can do this at your house. This is going to be a really quick cook. It's only going to take maybe 4, 5, 6 minutes at the most to grill the shrimp and the scallops, and you want this over a pretty high heat. I have lit some lump charcoal here. This would be a good option to use a pellet grill on this cook, or maybe even a gas grill if you have that, but you're not going to get that same smoky flavor that you're going to get from the charcoal. But this charcoal is going to take a while to get started. That gives us plenty of time to get in the house, get our creamy lemon butter sauce prepared and the Alfredo sauce. If you're using frozen shrimp and scallops like I am, then you need to lay them out of the freezer into the fridge about 24 hours before you're going to be grilling them. That way they have plenty of time to thaw out. And then I like to pat them dry, get them as dry as I can. These shrimp, they're the large shrimp. They do have the tails on them. I'm just going to go ahead and pinch the tails off of the shrimp. Once I get these dried off, I'm just going to place them on a wire rack so they can continue to dry and come up to room temperature before we put them on the grill. I'm going to go ahead and prep my breadcrumbs because there is a little something that you need to do to these. This is Italian breadcrumbs, just using a ½ cup. And then I'm going to add a ½ of a tablespoon of regular white sugar to these breadcrumbs. And the reason that we're doing that is these are only going to be on the grill for just a few minutes. And that sugar in there is going to help this get a little extra color on it. It's going to caramelize a little bit quicker than it would if it didn't have that. Now that I have that mixed up, I want to add 1 tablespoon of olive oil. I'm just going to take a fork, mix this up a little bit, and you'll see that I have salt, pepper, and garlic sitting here also. Now, I'm not putting that in the breading. You can put that in the breading. I like to wait until right before I bread these, and then I'm going to put that directly onto the shrimp. When you're mixing this up, you're looking for kind of a wet sand consistency. You can see that it's starting to get it there a little bit, but I may need to add just a little more olive oil to this. I'm gonna go with about another ½ tablespoon. Now you can kind of see we're getting that wet sand consistency. It's starting to clump together a little bit. And this is just going to help your breadcrumbs hold together when you put it on the shrimp and scallops. And that olive oil in there will also help it brown just a little more. I'm going to start with the creamy lemon butter sauce. And for that, I start off with about a ½ cup of white cooking wine. And I am making a small batch. So if you're making this for multiple people, then you'll want to use more. I'll be using a ½ teaspoon of minced garlic, and 1/4 teaspoon of white pepper. Now you can use black pepper. White pepper is a little more mild and it doesn't show up as much in the creamy lemon butter sauce. If you use the black pepper, then of course you have the black dots all in it. I'm gonna let this come to a boil and then we'll just let this reduce by about half, and that way the alcohol content kind of evaporates and you don't have to worry about your kids getting drunk at dinner. So with this small of a batch, it only takes maybe 5 or 6 minutes or so, and this is reduced down. And now I'm putting in a ½ cup of heavy whipping cream, and I'm gonna pour this in kind of slow, stirring it. And you just wanna let this simmer on a very, very low heat, just enough to keep it simmering until that cream becomes kind of thick and coats the back of the spoon, and I'll show you what we're looking for. But at this point, I'm gonna go ahead and add in my lemon juice. Now, I'm just using lemon juice. You can use fresh squeezed lemons. but for this small batch, I'm using a ½ tablespoon of lemon juice. It's been a couple of minutes. We're getting to where we want to be now. I'll show you in just a second. I'm gonna go ahead and drop my fettucine into the pot back here in the back. Just added those noodles, and now if we look at the sauce, you can see how that is reduced down. There's not much at all here, but you can draw a line on the back of your spoon, and that's what we're looking for. The lemon consistency in there may be just a tad light, so depending on what you like, you can add just a little more. I don't want to add much to it. One at Carrabba's is pretty light, so we're going to go with that. Once you get this thickened up, you want to turn that burner off, and now I have 2 tablespoons of butter that is in pretty small pieces, and I just want to add a few of these at a time, stirring this with the heat off, and just kind of let that butter melt in there, just a few pieces at a time. Once you get this butter stirred in, now this cream sauce here, this will thicken as it sits. I'm going to move this to the back burner and just put it on low. Your creamy lemon butter sauce is ready to go. Our noodles are boiling. We don't want them to finish up because we're going to finish them up in the Alfredo sauce. But let's get the Alfredo sauce ready. And Alfredo is very, very simple to make. There's only 4 ingredients. I've got 2 tablespoons of butter. And again, I'm going with a ½ tablespoon of minced garlic. I'll throw that in there with the butter. I'll give that just a few minutes to mix together and let the butter melt, and maybe brown that garlic just a little bit. The noodles are about 3/4 of the way done, so I have removed them from the heat, and I'm just going to leave them here in this water for just a few minutes. Once that has time to saute, I'm going to add 3/4 of a cup of heavy cream. Once I have that mixed in, and you'll see that mine is a little yellow, that butter had started to brown just a little bit. And that garlic that we put in there, it's brown. So have a little more color in there than you typically would. But at this point, I have added the cream. You don't really want to let this sit here and simmer before you add in the Parmesan cheese. And this is a ½ cup of Parmesan cheese that I grated yesterday. Yeah, so that Parmesan really begins to thicken up this sauce. Now I've got this over very low heat. It's only setting on 2 on my stovetop. I'm not going to drain these noodles because I want some of that starchy water over here in this sauce. So you can see those noodles were not fully cooked when I put them in here, and that's what we want because they're going to continue to simmer in this Alfredo for a while. If this begins to dry out or it gets too thick, then you can dip a little of your pasta water out of your pan and pour in here with it. But I'm going to leave this for now, and then we're going to get ready to throw the shrimp on. The creamy lemon butter sauce is ready. The Alfredo is ready. Now the grill's ready, and we got to get these shrimp on the grill along with the scallops. Now we have these out here. It's probably been about 45 minutes. They're nice and dry, but I'm going to spray them with just a little bit of this olive oil spray. And I'm going to flip them over, get both sides of them. That's just going to help allow our seasoning and the breading stick to it just a little bit better. And you could just drizzle these with olive oil, but I find that the spray is easier. And I have mixed up here a 1:1:1 ratio of salt, pepper, and garlic. I don't want to sprinkle this out of the containers because you're going to get too much. I mean, these are very small, very delicate. And so I'm just sprinkling a little bit of this SPG over top of these shrimp and scallops here. Once I get my seasoning on, now we just got to bread them. We'll drop them here in this breading, and you can see how this looks like some clumped up sand. It's not pretty Gulf Coast sand either. This is like Myrtle Beach sand. And you just want to try to get these coated well. But remember, it is a light breading. If you read the menu at Carrabba, it's a light breading. I'm going to put these on a skewer because Spiedino de Mare means skewer of the sea. So the grill's ready, it's nice and hot, and you want to be able to hold your hands here for maybe 4 or 5 seconds, but not really any longer than that because these are going to cook really fast, but we want them to brown on each side. So I'm going to put these down here, and you'll notice that I did borrow a grate from Oklahoma Joe's Bronco, And that is because it is porcelain coated, and that's going to help keep these from sticking. And look at this. It's been about 2 minutes. Look at that nice and golden brown color on there. A lot of that's due to the olive oil and then also to the sugar. I'll flip these over. Oh, beautiful. So for shrimp and scallops, I usually shoot for about 130. And these are already temping between 130 and 140. I just have turned them over, but I'm gonna go ahead and pull these up off of the heat. You don't want to go too far on shrimp and scallops because then you wind up with little rubber seafood balls. Now, I said at the beginning I was gonna talk about the cost just a little bit, and we'll do that before we plate this. So for everything that I bought, the shrimp, the scallops, the heavy whipping cream, the Parmesan cheese, some of the items I already have, but just for what I bought, it was about $60. In the restaurant, this plate's going to cost you about $30. But with the items that I bought, I could probably make this dish about 4, maybe 5 times. So if you want to try it at home, it is cheaper to try at home, but let's plate it up and see how we did. So I couldn't be much happier with the way this plate turned out, the look of it. I mean, it looks restaurant quality. It smells great. And now we're going to try and see if it compares to Carrabba's. Now, I'm going to start with the Alfredo. We'll see how this is. It's really creamy. That Parmesan really kicks through. It's got a good taste. I mean, it tastes like Alfredo sauce. Just what I would expect. But let's try the main dish. Let's try one that really counts. This is one of the shrimp with the lemon butter sauce. Oh my gosh. Wow. That is so good. That is spot on. Let me try a scallop first. I love scallops. Check out the texture inside of this. Beautiful texture, not overdone, not rubbery. Wow. That was so good. So delicate. So much flavor there. That little hint of smoke that comes from that wood fire, the breading, the Italian crumbs, that lemon butter sauce is awesome. And I've been making that quite often. I use it on blackened fish and a lot of other things. It's really good. So I suggest you give that a try. One of the things that I noticed at Carrabba's was that the lemon butter sauce had a light lemon flavor to it. And that's what we have here. I prefer that. You can add more lemon if you would like. One of the other things that I also noticed at Carrabba's was it had kind of a sweet taste to it. And I don't think it was in the sauce, but I think by us adding that sugar to the breading that was on the outside to help brown a little bit on the grill, I think that helped accomplish that also. Maybe that's what they're doing. I have no idea. Anyway, I got some eating to do. One of the good things about doing this at home, you know, I just made one plate. My scallops are bigger, my shrimp are bigger. There's already more on this plate. And this plate, if I broke down the cost to just this plate, probably $10 to $15. But if you're doing it at home, you can make as much as you want. But right now, I'm gonna finish this off and I'll see you next time right here on Peppercoat Barbecue.